Okay, so welcome to our December community coffee hour. This is our final coffee hour of the year. So we're really excited to have our guest presenters on today talking about partnering with schools. So just as a reminder, if you're just joining, please do put your name, your mentoring program, and your role in the chat so that we know who is here with us today. Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea what just happened with the screen share. Give me just a second, folks. And as you're coming in, don't forget to mute. All right, I think I figured it out. There we go. So for those who might not be familiar, hold on, can y'all can't see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know why, technology. We've been doing this for how long?
I can see it now though.
Okay, awesome. So for those who are not familiar, we are Mentor Virginia. Our mission is to foster quality mentoring relationships that empower, elevate, and encourage young people. We do that through training program coordinators, mentors, mentees. We also have AmeriCorps Vistas. Actually, one of our AmeriCorps Vistas is on the call today as a guest presenter, so you'll get to know her. We also provide no-cost consulting and the National Quality Mentoring System. So we do have a great team with us. Natalie Foster is our executive director. We have Cindy Montalvo, our AmeriCorps Vista leader. We have Virginia Patterson, our Youth Impact AmeriCorps Vista. We have Kinshasa Samuel, who's our Marketing Communications Vista member with us. We also have Tashara Boyd, our AmeriCorps Program Director, Tiara Whitfield, our Training and DEI Programs Manager, and then I am Sarah, the Programs Manager. So I think some of us are on the call today, so you will see from us here and there as well throughout the presentation this morning. And then we also have a great team of consultants. I think I noticed Laura Leparati. There might be some other folks who have joined now that I can't see the participants tab as easily with my screen share. But we do have a great team of consultants who work with programs and provide training and consulting. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and launch a quick poll just to see who is in the room with us today. So you should be seeing a poll on your screen asking you, is your mentoring program currently partnered with any schools? Yes, no, but we want to partner with schools, or no, and we don't have any plans to partner with schools right now. There's also not applicable option just in case you don't have a mentoring program or there's some other situation that you have. So we'll give folks a couple seconds to fill that out.
Hey, Sarah.
Yes.
I was just wondering, are you guys recording this to be able to be viewed later? Because I can't stay very long, but I'd really love to be able to access the content.
Yes, that is the idea. The one thing that will not be on the recording is when we do go into breakout rooms toward the end, but the majority of the conversation will be recorded.
Okay, thank you. Is that going to be available then in like an email link or anything?
Yes, I will email it out to everybody.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end poll and share the results. So it looks like the majority of folks on the call are partnered with schools at this time, and a good percentage, 26%, are not quite there yet, but are wanting to. And then when it kind of makes sense, nobody is here who is not partnered and doesn't plan to at some point partner. So that actually tracks pretty well, I think, with what we would expect. So awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Hopefully no malfunctions this time. So today we are talking about partnering with schools. If you want to kind of use the chat as a parking lot throughout the conversation today, I encourage you to think about what you are hoping to learn from this conversation. And if there are any questions that you have that we're not answering through the kind of presentation part, we are going to move into breakout rooms later on. So you will have a chance to kind of ask some of those questions. So just be thinking about them and feel free to put them in the chat as a parking lot throughout the conversation this morning. So I do want to present and introduce our guest speakers today. So we have Ellie Martinez. She's a passionate advocate for youth mentoring After starting her career with BBBS of Central Florida, Ellie joined BBBS Services, Inc. in Richmond, Virginia in 2016 and has served as the Director of Programs since 2019. She oversees program delivery to over 500 youth annually and identifies innovative ways to provide mentoring services to more youth across the Richmond, Tri-Cities Peninsula and Hampton Roads area. So we are so excited to have Ellie on with us today. We also have Grishma Rodrigues, who is the Program and Business Director at Mega Mentors in Chesterfield, Virginia. She helps expand the organization's mentoring program to reach over 600 Chesterfield County Public School students. Her passion lies in leading youth to success, and she has been a mentor to students at Pazhwak High School and is a current mentor at Henning Elementary. So we're also very excited to have Grishma. And then Grishma is tag teaming it today with Arya Pazhwak, who is a native of Northern Virginia, the product of immigrants. She knows the importance of education and public service. Arya is currently serving a second year of AmeriCorps Vista through Mentor Virginia with Mega Mentors in Chesterfield County. Her work with Mega Mentors involves assisting Chesterfield County Public Schools with virtual and in-person mentoring opportunities and making sure that no child gets left behind, working in the hybrid, so virtual and in-person mentoring over the course of her 2 years of service. So we're also very excited to have Arya with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie.
Thank you, Sarah. So again, I'm Natalie Foster, Executive Director with Mentor Virginia. We're delighted to have our panelists here to open up the discussion. So I'll just start with Ellie. What is your program's current relationship with schools, and how many schools are you collaborating with to provide mentoring?
Yeah, good morning. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. So just a really quick synopsis. I'm with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We do one-on-one mentoring for youth in our communities. We have two primary models. One is in the community, and the other one that we'll focus on today is in our schools. And so that's where our mentors are coming into schools once a week to meet with their littles over the course of the school year. That's our whole program in a really quick nutshell. Right now, all of our school programs look a little bit different. There's some counties and some schools that kind of are doing things in a different way, and we're accommodating that as best as we can. So we work with schools in Richmond and Henrico, in Prince George, Hopewell, Petersburg, and a couple outliers in Virginia Beach. So you can imagine we have a really broad range of expectations and working models. Really, our schools facilitate all of our programming. So they serve as referrals for young people. They serve as, they really help us kind of oversee matches and troubleshoot things as they're going along. And every school is working different. Some are in person, some are virtual, some are in a hybrid, some are kind of going back and forth depending on what's going on in their counties or in their schools. It's really different. It's a very fluid situation, and some certainly not what we're used to. But I think our priority is really supporting the schools, and we're doing everything we can to kind of accommodate what the schools are asking us to do and our partners.
Great, thank you. And same question to Arya and Grishma. If one of you wants to take, what is your program's current relationship with schools, and then, how many schools are you collaborating with?
Would you like me to go ahead, Tom?
Of course.
Sure. Currently, we serve Chesterfield County Public Schools, and we have 15 schools that we've been partnering with. But we have opened it out to all of Chesterfield County Public Schools for our virtual programs. So we've got 24 now schools that are in our program.
And are those elementary, middle, or high school?
Yes, they're all three, yes.
Yeah, it's across the board from elementary to high school. And also it's combined models through both in-person after schools,
Yes.
in-person after school sessions and virtual sessions. Well.
We were virtual for last school year, and then we started back in person with 3 of the schools this year. And we've got a couple of new schools that we're doing exclusively in person, so it's exciting. Everyone's excited to get back here.
And I know, Ellie, I'm not quite sure when you were discussing the relationships you've had, how long have you been partnering with schools? And, I know that you talked to us a little bit about how things have changed, obviously, with the pandemic. Can you go into a little bit more depth about that?
Yeah, sure. So we're very fortunate to have really long working relationships with a lot of our schools. So some of our schools we've been in for, close to 12 to 15 years. And our newest school, we just started a pilot program this year. So our relationships really range in how long we've been working together, which of course really means we've learned how to adapt to better working models with each other, right? And I think some of the biggest ways that our working model has changed is, of course, really whether volunteers are allowed in school. So the way that programming is carried out, what platforms are we using? How often are folks allowed to be in the building? Where are the spaces they're allowed to be? What are kind of the questions around vaccines or testing? Those are all things we've really never had to think about and track and monitor in the way that we're having to do this now. So those are some of the biggest changes. I think some of the other changes we've seen is really in how students are being referred. So we traditionally have seen students being referred for things, like behavioral concerns, or they just kind of need some extra attention. But I think a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of the referrals that are coming in are a little bit more severe, or a little bit they just higher needs. So they're seeing more mental health concerns that, schools are pinpointing and really hoping that our mentors can help with and address. And so really the level of needs is very different than it has been in past years, which means that we're having to do a lot more of support with our volunteers and training with them too. So it's changed in a whole lot of different ways. Those are just a couple of them.
I certainly understand that. Even just our previous coffee hour was about the mental health and landscape of what young people are going through right now. So we are definitely hearing that and understanding that mentors need a different kind of training, both for that to be prepared and also to be in the e-mentoring space. So the same question for you, Arya. How long have you had your partnerships and what changed during this time period?
We've been around for 12 years. What was the second question?
And Arya, what changes did you see in your programming, from previously, since you've been doing it for 12 years, to when the pandemic hit, and how things have kind of shifted gears?
Were you asking Arya or me? You said Arya.
Yeah, Arya.
I could do both, but I would say we were definitely 100% an in-person kind of system before pandemic. Of course, as school was always in person, and then as the pandemic hit and education went online, so did mentoring, but there was a little bit of a lull as we had to catch up. And priority was the education at the schools, and not so much I guess coordinating, because we do have a lot of partners, as Ellie said. It's a lot of sustained long-term relationships that you have with contacts in the schools, between like liaison coordinators, the school principal themselves, kind of really, making sure, coordinating with the students and what we can come in as volunteers and mentors into the schools and stuff. So we definitely had to adapt going virtually and then slowly coming back in person, seeing how much we can acclimate and be taken in as mentors coming to the schools.
Right. I think that we're hearing that from a lot of folks, that, that kind of multiple layers of going through the school system and having some new policies and procedures about how you operate with schools now in this, time period. So Ellie, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because I think what folks may also want to hear is, how do you build a new relationship with a school? How did you kind of first do that ask for a partner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it takes a lot of patience, just like any new relationship that you build with anybody, right? Personally and professionally, kind of whatever that may look like. So a lot of our programs, like I said, were in place well before I was here with the organization. So I can't speak to those, but I've certainly been a part of establishing new relationships. And I think the biggest challenge of that is really identifying who you should be talking to, and really understand the school's needs. I think once you really understand what the needs are, and you can assess whether your program can kind of hopefully fill in some of the gaps, it's really talking about the outcomes that your program typically sees and how you really imagine that you could be a support to the school. But I think all of that really has to start from a place of listening and understanding what the schools need and what your partners are seeing and what they've already tried and what they're looking for. I think we've certainly seen some instances where folks kind of just, kind of hand solutions on a platter, and that's really not what's going to work. I think it really has to come from a genuine place of wanting to understand what's currently going on in the schools. We are not in schools, and so we default a lot to our partners to tell us what they're seeing and what they're hoping to get from our working relationship, and then really start working through the nitty gritty of what your program looks like. I think it's really important to identify your kind of non-negotiables. So we have standards of practice that we have to operate by, and there are things all of our volunteers are required to do and all of our program specialists are required to complete. And I think it's really being able to stick to those things, but then also identifying the areas that you can bend a little bit. So all of our schools operate a little differently, and that's okay. We all know kind of our non-negotiable factors that we really can't bend on, same for the schools, and then the areas that we can and we do to really make those working relationships the most successful they can be. But it takes time, it takes patience. Our schools have always been, our school staff, have really always been tapped for time and extra resources and supports. And so it's understanding that it's not going to happen at the drop of a hat. And it's patience, it's time, it's persistence, and it's listening, and it's being genuine.
I liked what you said there, as we know that it kind of in that typical business development, which you are partnering with them in that way, you offer a solution, but you said that you're looking at a customized solution for them, not just, a one fit solution for everyone, and putting your boundaries in place. I know that a lot of times when we're working with new schools or funders, kind of this is the same type thing, they have one way of looking at it and really putting those, I like how you said that, non-negotiables, but we may be able to bend a little bit on this piece. Can you tell us a little bit about what the average amount of time it is to take a partner from those discussions to kind of signing maybe an MOU in place?
Yeah, so most recently, the example I can think of is our pilot program in one of our Prince George elementary schools. And we probably started talking around, I would say November of 2020, really to start a program for fall 2021. So it's
a year long. Yeah. With probably at least 7 meetings in between.
With lots of people and lots of drafts of MOUs and going back and forth. Yeah, it takes time.
Very good. So same question for you, Grishma. Can you talk about one of your new relationships that you've built with the school and what that looked like?
Yeah, sure. Let me just backtrack a little bit. We have a great relationship. The way we've met with the superintendent of Chesterfield County Public Schools. We work very closely with them, the administrators at the schools, and our liaisons for every team work very closely with me, with the administrative. So it's like it's a team effort, As far as the newest program, we did it at Henning. Our superintendent let us advertise Mega Mentors on their platform, on their website. And so schools have been calling us, when can you start? So Henning reached out to us, and we're actually starting this week. The first session started yesterday, and it's all in person. The time frame, it was very quick for us because we have a very close relationship with CCPS. So it was 2 meetings, virtual meetings, and basically I'm just kind of the liaison to make sure we have enough mentors, who's going to be a liaison for that team. We already have our curriculum in place, everything is on our website, so everyone knows what to do, and our liaison just kind of puts it all together, and we work very closely with their school coordinator. So it was very, very quick. We do not have an MOU, so we just have it's not a written, but we just have a very good understanding how it's going to work. So we've been doing it for 12 years, and we value the school administrators' relationship.
And I think for the folks that are joining us for the coffee hour, you can really see the differences between two programs. We have one program that is working with one school system and building kind of a deep relationship into that one school system. Not that Ellie's program isn't, but she's working with, and can you remind us, Ellie, how many different school systems you're working with?
Yeah, we are in 6.
So really thinking about that too, if you're starting a program, do you want to start with one and then build out that model in that space? So just a little reminder there. Here's a question that comes up often for our program partners. We all know that we need funding to be able to do what we do. Ellie, in your case, are the school systems offering any kind of financial support for your programming?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, they are not. However, our partnership with schools and other organizations like Communities in Schools, who does a lot of the heavy lifting for our partnerships with schools, that does make it into a lot of our funding applications. So being able to show that we are working really seamlessly with partners in the community and other kind of structures does strengthen applications for funding, and funders typically do like to see a lot of that kind of community partnership aspect of things. So we often speak highly of our partners and talk a lot about our partnership work and when we seek funding.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I said, I've been doing fundraising for quite a while now myself. And if you can get a letter of support from a
Yes.
partner or collaboration, that helps for you to be able to get your funding. So same question for you guys at Mega Mentors. Do you have any financial support or fees for services that come through the school systems? Or do you have to do all the funding yourselves to be able to operate that program?
So we provide the financial aspect. The school does provide their buildings. Sometimes they do printing and some in the past transportation. But yes, we do provide all the financial aspect.
That's a great point. So being able to utilize maybe some in-kind services. So even if you can't get the actual dollars, when you're partnering with a school, what can they provide in-kind services for you? Great point.
Excuse me, Natalie. This is McKinley at Mega Mentors. I'm the treasurer, so maybe I can just add a little
Sure.
to that. Yes, we do get a lot of in-kind services from Chesterfield County Schools. That includes transportation for field trips. Also, it includes, as Grishma said, printing, a lot of administrative. They've even provided us with office space in their building on Hall Street as in-kind. So, and that's roughly over almost $100,000.
I was going to ask,
Yes.
What amount is that? So you can see the impact of what in-kind can be for you. Thank you so much.
And that's based on the relationship that we've fostered with them over the years. So.
Yes, thank you, Monica. That's a great point, because we actually have one of our programs that's finishing up this Saturday. It's a STEM program, and Chesterfield County Public Schools has given us the room for us to do our program there. Well, we're partnered with a different organization, but yeah, they've actually provided the space and for us to do that work.
Very good. So I'm going to shift back to Ellie. What are some lessons in your program that you've learned through time, building and maintaining those relationships with schools to provide mentoring?
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it takes patience. A lot of what we see, and it happens on both ends, on ours as well as schools. Staff turnover is a very real thing, and it happens. And some threads of working relationships can be kind of weakened or lost during staff transition. So making sure you are really setting yourself up for success and anticipating transitions is really helpful. So although you may have one point person on either team working together, making sure there's kind of these webs of support around it will really ensure smooth transitions when they happen. I think we formalize a lot of our relationships with partners. We have MOUs in place. I think what we've learned more recently is in some cases allows for more data sharing a little bit more transparently, which works really nicely. Like you're saying, we're in several school districts. Grishma and Arya, we're talking, you're in one. So the data sharing for us gets to be kind of challenging sometimes. So making sure we're spelling some of that out in a really formal way is meaningful. Because again, we're seeking funding, both a lot of times separately, we're seeking funding. So being able to share that data is important. And really being able to just sit back and listen to our partners, have them identify what's working, what isn't working in their schools, and really going back to the drawing board when you need to. Understanding that things are going to change. If the last couple of years haven't taught us that, then gosh, I don't know what will, but really understanding that there are going to be times where our program doesn't run the way we envisioned it, and being able to be nimble and really adaptable and flexible, and remembering for us, at least, it is at the core of our program to support students in schools. And we could not do that without supporting the schools directly. So really listening to our partner is especially important to us, especially during this time.
And, kind of a follow-up question to that, we all have had that experience where, there's been staff turnover. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe a time when that happened and how long it took to kind of reestablish that relationship?
Yeah, that depends if it's on one side or both sides, right? But there are a couple schools that we work with where our point of contact transitions pretty regularly. And thankfully, we're in a place where most of our team has been in place for several years. And so we've been able to maintain it on our end. So it tends to be a fairly smooth transition, not always. So, I see Charlotte on our call here, who's a wonderful CIS contact. Charlotte and I have been working together for years. And although there may be transitions on both of our teams, we're able to kind of make those ties and introductions again. It really depends, I think, on the level of support you have with other relationships. It can take a while. We've unfortunately have lost program partnerships because of transitions and and a different partnership again. So that can also happen, and just to understand that is a real thing.
Okay, great. And I know for Mega Mentors, you guys have been talking about this deep relationship that you have. Can you tell us a little bit about how you maintain that? What are those steps in that process? Or have you seen some changeover in staff and it has an impact for you guys?
I would say the same as Ellie. We do have to maintain a very good, positive working relationship with the school coordinators and the principals, because we want to make sure that all of the students and more students are able to participate. So keeping a very good, positive relationship is very important for us and Mega Mentors. There is, yes, turnover. Sometimes, some school coordinators may not be, and I would say the issue now is a lot of the schools are overwhelmed, staff. They have so many different things that they have to do. So we're asking the school coordinators to do more work, get the students together, especially for our at-school virtual programs. Not only do they have to do their regular job, they have to do extra stuff. So being mindful of that. So we really try to be flexible. So keeping that in mind, we've opened this program to after-school virtual programs now, because everyone is overwhelmed and we get it. So we have, by doing that, it kind of alleviates some of the work that the school coordinators have to do. So now I work typically with the after-school programs. So I'm dealing directly with the parents. We send them the Google Meet links. The parents can call me directly. So just trying to be flexible and with the schools. It seems to be helping us on this just really unprecedented time.
Right, that's an excellent example of pivoting. Maybe we can't do all the in-school time things that we had been potentially doing to make sure that you aren't overburdening school staff and things like that, and then seeing that you're taking the extra responsibility in the after-school component of your program.
Natalie, may I add something to what Grishma just said? Mega Mentors was actually started by Dr. Newsom, who was the superintendent back in 2009. And since then, each superintendent of Chesterfield County has supported Mega Mentors. We actually have senior staff members on our board from Chesterfield County Schools. So that's the type of relationship we have with the county. So and that has helped us a lot. Schools actually come to us. The schools come and say, look, we want your program. And that's because Dr. Doherty promotes Mega heavily for us. He's a true believer in mentoring. And we've been fortunate to have that type of relationship.
Very good. I know I have a next question kind of that will lead to that piece, but I will say Mentor Virginia, we've worked closely with Grishma Public Schools and providing training for them and some consulting services among other partners here. But it is true, once the superintendent kind of puts it as an agenda item, that's your key into things. And if it isn't quite there yet, to build that relationship with a principal that can give you that warm handoff potentially to make sure that it's an agenda item, because that once it's there, then that is a good opening. So besides that, Ellie, what other advice would you offer a mentoring program that is trying to kind of establish a relationship with a school? Or in addition, if you want to talk about that piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I've touched on a lot of the things based on just strategies we've used, but I think really establishing relationships with direct school staff is important. I think there's a really kind of fine line to strike between not overwhelming folks even more, but also being available and being really transparent about what your service can provide is important. So I think having a direct line to the schools is really relevant. I think providing schools all the bits and pieces of materials that they're possibly going to need is really critical. We don't want to ask folks to do even more than they're already doing on our behalf. So whether that means sending flyers or sending, virtual materials that they can use, or making sure the materials are readily available at the school, making sure you're doing all of that heavy lift is important. Being really clear about your expectations. If there's nothing worse than really revisiting, half a year down the road or the next year and say, gosh, I think there were really some misaligned expectations of where the program was going to go, and being transparent about changes that have to happen along the way, whether it's a shortage of volunteers or whether there's program staff change or there's funding change, whatever it may be, being really honest about those help everybody kind of pivot together for really the success of the program.
And Ellie, let me ask you this question too. Has there ever been a school that you had to say no to in the moment? They just weren't ready, or what did that look like? How did you kind of go about that process?
Yeah, we have. And unfortunately, that's something that comes up more often than we would like. The reality of our program is that we operate on a waiting list for students and for young people. So we really are dependent on the number of volunteers we can bring in, month after month, year after year. And so when we're assessing kind of our partners that can provide volunteer sources and so on and so forth, we don't want to set ourselves up for failure in a school or over promise and under deliver. So some of that is just making sure that schools understand what we actually realistically are able to meet and provide. And sometimes that's on our end, that we can't meet a need that is currently there. But we have had times where partners approach us and it's either not a fit because it's not closely aligned to our mission. We're very true to our mission and we stick to it. And so if it kind of falls outside of that, we may have to suggest a different program for them to partner with, or a school that really has different expectations than what we do, whether it's a different age group or different outcomes that they're looking for. And again, we really have to, kind of our mission is that non-negotiable part I mentioned earlier. We have to really be able to identify the work we do and make sure that it's a good fit for everybody. Because if not, then everyone's just going to, not really have the best experience.
And you make a good point there too, that we hadn't really brought up, what are those MOU points or things like that? Is the school expected to help with recruitment of mentors? Or are they just saying, oh, nope, you've got to bring everyone to the table? So I think that even besides financial support, really putting in place those things that you will need help from a school to be able to provide to make a successful program, as you said. So here you go. Arya and Grishma, in your case, with your school system, I'm curious if you've been able to utilize some youth voice at some point to say, you know, especially maybe at the high school level, are there youth that are saying, we want this program here, and how you may have, you know, kind of gone about that way?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, a couple of our schools, because they didn't hear from us, they were asking their school coordinator, like, hey, and some of the school coordinators are assistant principals. So, Mr. Fortune, when is Mega Mentors coming back? Like, you know, what's going on? So yeah, there are quite a few youth in our middle and high school and elementary too. And so I just hear that from our school coordinators. But this year we've actually, you know, had to promote us on, you know, on a larger scale, like on their website. And, you know, we've been working with the principals to send our flyer on their weekly email. So that's how we actually got more participation this year, because it wasn't just, you know, us trying to find, or I mean, the school coordinators trying to find the students, but it was broadcast, you know, on a bigger platform. So parents were actually able to call us and say, hey, when is this starting? And like directly have that link now with us and try to find out more about the program.
Yeah, that's a great piece of information there, that when you partner with a school, you know, what kind of avenues are they going to be able to provide for you to market your program, whether it be through newsletters or things like that. So really thinking about that as you're beginning your partnership. And I'm delighted to hear that young people were asking for the program, because again, we want to highlight youth voice. And I think that's super important. So not to forget about, yes, we have our mentoring program, we have our schools, but really this is about the youth. And the more that they have their voice there to say this is important, then you can, especially if you're beginning to start a program, you can go on next to the principal and say, hey, we're hearing this, they want this program, or the, you know, superintendent in that way as well. So I think that we are going to be wrapping up here so that we can do some breakout room sessions. Just want to ask both our panelists here if you have any final thoughts before I let Sarah do her magic, and then you'll be able to kind of ask some more you know, poignant questions within the breakout rooms. Okay, Sarah, do you want to explain the breakout rooms here?
Yes, so we are going to have 2 open rooms. So you're not going to automatically be assigned to any of the rooms. You will just be able to pick which of the 2 rooms you would like to enter. So room 1, Ellie Martinez is going to be in room 1. And so if you want to continue the conversation with Ellie, if you have some specific questions about their model, you can go into room 1 with Ellie. Room 2 will be Grishma and Arya. So if you have specific questions that you want to kind of dive deeper in with Mega Mentors, you can go into that room. And also keep in mind, you could potentially flip between both rooms if you decide that you would want to do that. But we'll be in rooms for somewhere between 10 and probably 13 minutes. So just, you know, enough time to really start asking some questions.
Everyone. You know, before we close here, I hope that you had, you know, enjoyed the opportunity to talk a little bit more one-on-one with our panelists. And as we are closing here, I just wanted to debrief, just brief, you know, with Ellie and Arya and Grishma. Ellie, was there something that came out of your kind of breakout session that you wanted to share with the wider audience, something that maybe wasn't covered during our previous discussion?
Yeah, I think one of the things that came up that I really am kind of walking away with is really the importance of setting expectations and boundaries with your school partners, and kind of really what everyone is expecting at the very onset of the relationship and as it's ongoing, because those expectations could ebb and flow a little bit, but revisiting and really setting boundaries is going to be important. So thanks to my group for kind of chiming in on there.
And as we know, if we set boundaries earlier on, then we don't have to backtrack and say, whoops, this isn't exactly what we meant. So I do think, you know, we sometimes think that a partnership and setting boundaries is that icky part. Like, we don't want to seem like there's so many policies and procedures, but as you know, too, even with our new mentor training, we talk about setting boundaries with people and relationships. So it's definitely good practice there. And for Arya and Grishma, in your group, was there kind of an aha or something that you would consider that you'd like to share with the wider audience?
Sure. Yeah, I know that Priscilla, Pam in our group had asked about kind of out getting how that first ask into the schools, essentially how who is that point of contact we should really focus on and all that. And we were discussing that, but then we had realized that her program was like a one-on-one matched program, whereas Mega Mentors is more focused on group mentoring. But that didn't really come up till almost the end, because we were the policies and like the relationships going into it are like the same going much in, and it didn't really matter that our programs were kind of like divergent ways, because it's all mentoring at the end, and it all was still like applicable. So that was interesting.
But I do think that's an important point too, when you're building that relationship. Do they have a good understanding of, is this group mentoring? Is this one-on-one mentoring?
Yeah.
What do they have the capacity to kind of sustain within their school system, and what are they looking for?
That was very true.
Grisham?
I'd actually love to reach out to Ellie after this call. To Ellie, I'd like to get a little bit more information from you as far as how you're doing your data collecting, because we're getting bigger and our programs are diverse. We really want to see, and we're actually working on our website database roster. So I'd really like to reach out to you to find out how you're doing that, and that would be awesome. I know it's a huge conversation apart from this, but if you don't mind, if I could call you later.
And I saw Ellie put her contact information in there for you too, and for others, hopefully they're opened up to. But that is a very good point. Again, when you're starting a program, what is your logic model going to look like? What does evaluation look like? You just can't think that we're going to just have this feel good program from, again, setting those policies and procedures, boundaries, really trying to look at what you are going to accomplish and thinking about evaluation, because that will be super important for funding and to show what you've done during that school year. I know we have about 2 minutes left, so if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email Sarah or I, and we can get you directed to the right person, but I know she has a few announcements she wants to get through as well.
Yes, I'm going to very quickly share my screen. So after we hang up today, there should be a survey that pops up for you. Just to let us know how this was, what topics you want to talk about in 2022, and any other helpful information on how we could improve. I want to go ahead and announce January's community coffee hour topic. So we're going to be talking about compassion, fatigue, and self-care. This is, I think, a conversation that we have all been having in our own kind of circles, and so wanting to create a space to have a larger community conversation about what does this look like, how are we all taking care of ourselves in this very high stress work that we want to make sure we're not burning out. So that's January 14th from 9 to 10. And then we also want to go ahead and announce February's community coffee hour. So this will be Wednesday, February 9th, and we're going to be talking about from mentoring to critical mentoring, really moving forward in mentoring. So we will be trying to bring some new frameworks and some work that's been coming down from our national kind of affiliate network around critical mentoring, and really excited to share some of these updates with you all. I also wanted to share that we have an advocacy opportunity coming up. January is National Mentoring Month, and it is also the month that we have the National Mentoring Summit, which is hybrid this year. There's going to be, you can either go to DC or you can attend the summit virtually. And part of the summit, the first day, is Capitol Hill Day. So this is an opportunity for youth, for your mentors, for program coordinators. You can have parents, any other advocates can come together. We'll be doing it virtually and take meetings with legislators and their staff on Capitol Hill to really advocate for mentoring and the work that we're doing, and why we need continued federal support for this work. So I encourage you to sign up for that so that we have a really strong showing of folks. Wanted to just throw out there again that we have no cost assistance available. So when Mega Mentors, when you all brought up evaluation, we actually have John Harris, who is one of our consultants, and he's an expert in evaluation. So that could be an avenue to explore. And all of our TA providers have very specific kinds of expertise that y'all can lean on, including around school-based mentoring. So just know that we are accepting applications for that no-cost support. And then very quickly, also just wanted to announce that there is a brand new mentoring connector database. So some of you might have been part of this before, some of you might be new to it, but it is a way that you can recruit mentors. Oh, Pam, I'm sorry, you're unmuted.
Okay, I'll be done in just a second.
So the mentoring connector is a way that you can put your program into this database and you can recruit mentors through it. And they've updated it so it is way more user-friendly than it ever was before. So we'll be sharing out more information about this coming soon, but just wanted to give a quick preview of that. So I will stop sharing. I will thank all of you for joining us. I will thank our guest presenters for your contributions this morning. And thank you all for really giving us a good wrap on our 2021 Community Coffee Hour series. We're so excited to see you all again in 2022, but in the meantime, enjoy your holidays. Everybody take some time, recharge your batteries, and we will see you again in the new year.
Thank you so much, Sarah, Natalie.
Take care.
Much, guys.
Bye.